Welcome, and thank you for joining us on the initial launch of the new ATS Pro streaming studio that we built here in New Hartford, Connecticut. We're very excited and very honored today to be introducing the brand new NovaStar 8 series. And we'll be talking an awful lot about what makes this a very important development in the LED system infrastructure. Before we begin, we'd like to talk a little bit about what our agenda is going to be today. We're going to talk a little bit about ATS Pro. We're going to talk about our relationship with NovaStar, as well as we're going to talk about a Q&A session and the 8 series launch presentation. A little bit about ATS Pro. ATS Pro is a professional distribution and sales organization and engineering firm that distributes LED systems, whether it be LED panels, also head-end systems such as NovaStar, SPROLink, and a few other product lines that we have. And we provide a complete solution to systems integrators across the country. ATS Pro was derived from a company that I started many, many years ago called Activate the Space. Activate the Space, over the span of 15 plus years, has designed and integrated hundreds of LED walls, mostly in the retail sector, but any size, any shape, you name it, we've done it. We have a lot of experience in it. And we came to learn a lot of different things about LED systems over the years that helped us in design and also helped improve the products that we now offer through ATS Pro. One of the things we're going to discuss significantly right now is the LED processing with Novastore. And I'd like to introduce Nelson Wang and Ricky from Novastore. They're joining us today from Xi'an, China, the home of Novastore. Hello guys, how are you today?
Fine, thank you.
Good. Nelson, please introduce yourself to the audience.
Okay. Hello everyone, this is Nelson from Novastore, and right now I'm in China, and I'm taking care of the US market, and it's very nice to meet you here. And so for today's event, I have to say that our distributor ATS Pro is very great company, and it is a company that mainly focuses on the distribution of LED industrial products such as LED display, controllers, splicers, switchers, and also some other things. And they're very professional in all aspects of the technology in the LED industrial. And Novastore also is a very professional company that produces LED controllers, processors, splicers, and also already in USA for many years. And between ATS Pro and the Novastore, we have many discussions between each other, and it's confirmed that ATS Pro is our distributor in North America. And Novastore is very fortunate to have such kinds of a professional distributor as ATS Pro, and I believe we will have a good cooperation in the bright future. So let's together bring in the Novastore to a new stage in USA. Thank you. Thank you.
Ricky, what is it that you do with Novastore?
Okay. Hi everyone. My name is Ricky Lee, and one of the support team for North American. Yeah, that's we do all the support things for other customers in North American and South Americans.
Great. So it's very late in China, or very early, depending on which way you look at it. But we thank you for joining us. We'll bring them back in a few minutes after we get to the Q&A section for very specific questions that you might have for either of them relative to Novastore. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Okay, the 8 series, design it your way. What does this mean? Why is it important? In the long run, an LED is not a product. An LED is a system. You have the LED panels, of course, you have LED processing, and in many cases you have video processing in addition to that. It's important to understand that most LED companies don't really focus that strongly on the LED processing side of it, and they leave an awful lot up to the determination of the systems integrator or the designer of the project to figure a lot of those things out. The 8 series is an attempt, and a very good attempt, to remedy many of the issues that you find in an entire system and an entire operation. Now, when you look at screens like this, it doesn't have to be 4K plus. It can be a variety of different size screens like you're looking at over here. Here's a whole bunch of variety relative to different types of screens that you might see on an event stage, relative to different resolutions and different windows and all these type of things that you see. This is the perfect definition of something that Steve Jobs said back in 2010. Steve Jobs said that integrated will trump fragmented every time. Now, what did he mean by that? What he meant is, in order to get to a layout like this with multiple different LED screens, different resolutions, picture-in-picture, different windowing, in order to get to that, you used to have to do this. And many still do this today. You have on the very far right side a video processor, which handles the scaling, the inputs, whether it be DVI or HDMI, even IP these days, VGA. Those inputs are then routed outside of that to a series of different sections of LED processors, and the LED processors are what take the video signal, whatever it might be, and map it to the LED walls or the individual walls, as in this case. So by its very nature, this is a fragmented system. The video processor on the very beginning of the chain might be made from one manufacturer. The LED processors, of course, are Novastar. But still, you have multiple screens, you have multiple stuff, and all this results in is this, a cable mess. And many of you are very well aware of seeing these type of things. So at the end of the day, not only is the system fragmented from a perspective of different manufacturers handling different processes, both video processing as well as LED processing, but it's also fragmented because you have all these boxes, you have hundreds and hundreds of cables going in between them. Any one of these cables would result in the failure of the system, having a problem. So the H series is a fully integrated system that replaces too many devices, too many cables, compatibility issues between different formats, and image tearing. Let me go back to this one screen here for a second. If you imagine with this, let's say this was all one screen and it was beyond 4K. You would have image tearing across a lot of the big sections of these type of screens, and the H series eliminates that. So no more. The first generation that was started with this had integrated video processing as well as digital LED processing on the output. Basically what you're looking at is your products like the VX4S from Novastore and the Pro HD were really basically a 660 LED processor combined with a video processor. And these are great and they're widely used today and used in lots of different installations, and we sell them all the time. But they are limited. They're limited to 2K. What happens when you go beyond 2K? Now, you don't necessarily need to go beyond 2K on one wall. It could be multiple walls, for instance, in a house of worship setup. Or you could have a primary 2K and you want a backup. That would require two of these type of processors. With the H series integrated, you can just choose your cards. The second generation expanded upon the 2K limitation and went to 4K. But still, to go beyond 8K, or I'm sorry, to go beyond 4K, you needed to have multiples of these systems together, and again, a separate video processor in the head end feeding them. Again, this leads to complications, incompatibility. This is still a fragmented system. H series screen management system. The H series screen management system is a card-based system. I'm going to show you the back of this one right here, right now. And what you'll see is this is the H5, and we'll discuss what the numbers mean in a second. The H5 is a card-based system where each of these cards down the line here are your inputs on this side and your outputs on this side. So gone is that whole cable mess that you saw in the previous picture, and you now have complete freedom to choose what types of inputs you have, how many inputs you have, and what the routing aspect of it's going to be to either one screen or many screens, or what, like I said before, one massive screen that goes way beyond 4K. Key to this is the output card system, which I'll show you in 1 second. Now, there are lots of manufacturers out there that make video processing, and Novastore certainly has been making video processing for a long time. But essentially, Novastore has a commanding lead in the market for LED processing. So you could throw a dart in almost any city around the world and you're going to hit a wall that has Novastore receiving and sending systems in it. So now we take this power with a card-based system and we add into it this card. This card that I'm holding in my hand right here is a card system that is a 16 output LED processing card. This is equal to an MCTRL 4K or 4K output LED processing system, which many of you are aware of. I want you to think about that. This card in this rack, like I showed you before, had multiple slots. I can have 3, 4, 5, almost as many as these as I want, that can be mapped to all sorts of different LED walls in one location, or it can be mapped to LED walls very, very far away. There are fiber outputs on here, on this card, so you can extend the signal out. This is the most integrated modular design available in the market that covers everything from video processing to LED processing. No one else has anything that even comes close to this. And again, considering that Novastar has such a commanding lead and percentage of the market, this is a natural fit to most installations that are out there. Even live events, like I said, houses of worship, retail store installations, conventions, outdoor, wherever you need multiple inputs going to multiple outputs, this is the system for you. But in particular, multiple outputs that are a match via the CADX connectors here to LED receiving cards, which again, predominantly are made by Novastar. So it's a completely modular design. It's a design that has the ability to do 4K, 8K, and much more, and it's extremely user-friendly. Now, I mentioned earlier about fragmentation, and we talked about how the different parts and all these type of things with different manufacturers, different things that are all fragmented, and we said that integrated trumps that every time. With its modular design and choice of inputs. So here I have a 2K input card that provides me with 4 2K inputs, off on one little card, right? This already is 4 times the amount of inputs that you have on an MCTRL 4K, just this card alone. And then beyond that, we also have 4K input cards, SDI, both 3G and 12G, DVI cards, IP cards. And again, the outputs are the RJ45 cards that I showed you earlier, here, this one. And these are a perfect match to any Novastar receiving card in any LED manufacturer that's out there on the planet. And by the way, if your LED manufacturer doesn't offer Novastar, most of them will always do it, but I have yet to find one that doesn't. So this is a ubiquitous system that fits in naturally with systems that are already installed if you want to upgrade. Now, the modularity aspect of it is important because when people are designing LED walls, and depending on the client base and depending on what they're doing, the client doesn't always know exactly what he needs as far as inputs go. So you specify a system, they say, okay, well, we want 2 inputs, and we want to be able to go to this screen and that screen, and you design a system to do that. And then lo and behold, the system gets installed, and they go, oh, you know what? We want to add an input. Well, in all of the previous systems, whether it was a video processing, you'd have to add more LED processing, or you'd have to change the video processor. In this case, since this is an integrated card-based system, all you need to do is add another card. That's all you need to do is just add another card. So this also gives you freedom to evolve with your customer and their freedom as well to say that I'm going to start with something like this, but as time goes on, I'm going to keep adding on to it. And it happens all of the time. Each of the cards that come out of this, or the entire, the largest card rack that we do not have on the stage here today, is called the H15. It handles 15 MCTRL 4Ks. That is a massive wall. That is an absolutely massive wall, all seamless. And you know, I had mentioned earlier today about fragmentation. So this system offers you 16 2K layers. This is off of one card, or 4 4K layers off of one card. So each individual output card, again, this card right here, offers you 16 layers output and 4 4K layers. In addition to that, it has web control. Now, here's the next extension of the discussion relative to fragmentation. Not only before you had a fragmented system with different manufacturers, you had fragmented systems with different parts, cabling, everything all over the place, but you also had different interfaces that you had to deal with. A different interface for the video processor, a different interface for the LED processors, and so on and so on and so on. The H series system offers an all-in-one integrated solution that can handle from one software interface, that's all you need to learn, all of the video processing and the LED processing processes and setups that you might desire. And it's all done via the web control. Each of the systems on the stage, which you can see, here is the H2, the smallest version of it. We go to the H5 in the middle and the H9, all have a built-in web server. Now, why is that important? You don't have to install a separate PC that gives you access to control these systems. It's built in. You can do it via DHCP as well. Therefore, if something happens and you need to reconfigure it, or you just want to make a change in a setup, you don't have to send a technical person to the site to do that. It can be done over the web. You don't need a PC loaded in the rack running Novastore software or some other brand software that can control the unit. Again, that's fragmented. This is integrated. It's all built into here. In addition, the screens in the front of the H5 and the H9 and above are all touch screens where you can interrogate the system physically and look at it. You have input cropping capabilities, and you have multi-user capabilities as well. So that's a really great function when you think about it, because you may have an environment like a house of worship that has a lot of different events going on. It may be Sunday services, there may be things done on Saturday, maybe during the week. You may have different operators, and they need different setups, they need different inputs, they need different outputs set up. Well, you can claim up to 2,000 presets, and those can be assigned to all user access. So I could have my own set of presets if I wanted them, and when I get into the control room, I can call it my setup for the system. But great, it's a big time saver, and it allows for places to change over very, very quickly that need to change over their inputs and outputs for their LED walls. You also have an input and output multiviewer. Now, anyone that's run systems that has lots of inputs and lots of outputs, this is a godsend. Not only do you have a multiviewer that can go to a remote monitor on your desk or on your work setup, but you also have it that comes up in the front of this, as you can see on the screen here in the behind me. So you can take a look at what's going on from an input standpoint or switch to the output standpoint. So you can use it as a confidence monitor to make sure that all your inputs are working, and again, a confidence monitor to make sure all your outputs are going. Again, brilliantly thought out, extremely well designed, and thought of as a fully integrated system. It's a game changer. There's no doubt about it, because again, no one in the market has the infrastructure base that Novastore has with all of the LED wall receiving cards that are out there. We're talking millions upon millions of them, and now they've got a fully integrated system that can deal with all of that. The fiber solutions as well. So in stadiums where you have long, long runs with screens, the fiber output that I showed you on the card earlier can connect to the fiber receiving boxes from Novastore as well, the CVTs, that can extend these up to miles, depending on whether it's single or multi-mode fiber. So again, all the power in that output card could be extended thousands of feet away. You also get low latency, sync, HDR, 3D. Again, there really is very little, if anything, that I've been aware of that Novastore has not thought about building into this box. So everything that you might have used an external source for goes away. Everything that you might have done on a fragmented basis into multi-LED processors goes away. All in a compact box, and you get to choose what size you want. So right here you have the H2 series. The H2 series has the different chassis sizes, basically, that all use the same cards. So I just choose what it is that I want. The H2, I could get 4 input cards, which could be up to 16 inputs if I'm doing 2K. Remember this card here, this was the 4 input HDMI card. All right, I could put 4 of these in the H2. I could have a 16 input mapped out to essentially 4K, 8K wide output with 2 of the output cards like this in the smallest box. Just this one output card into the H2 box right over here is like having again, an MCTRL 4K LED processor with up to 16 inputs and one 4K output, or two if you want redundancy. All in one nice, tidy, small box. If that's not enough, you can move up to the H5. Again, more input slots, more output slots. You can go up to the H9, more input slots, more output slots. And of course, the big one, the H15. Up to 130 million pixels. This system is capable of controlling video processing and routing, windows, layering, HDR, extremely low latency, and 3D. There have been many demo cases. While this is the official launch, this product has actually been shipping for several months and is being used in a lot of different cases around the world. Everything from control rooms to live event spaces, churches, houses of worship, retail. Here's a control room picture. And actually, this picture is interesting because this is an LED wall that has multiple resolutions. Everything from 2 millimeter down to 1.2, all coming out of one H-series rack. Phenomenal. One set of control for video processing, one set of control for LED processing, all combined into one. Absolutely phenomenal solution. Here's the Hard Rock Casino in Gary, Indiana. This is a combined project between ATS Pro and Claire Brothers. This is just outside of Chicago. This entire casino's LED systems on the inside and outside are run by two H-series systems. We're talking about 16 channels of televisions coming in, being able to go anywhere you want them to go, all sorts of promotional videos. Anything that happens in that casino is essentially running through two of the H-series systems. It's just recently installed. The casino will be opening in about 30 days. So again, although this is the launch, we've actually been using this and selling it, and so is Novastore around the world. This is the first real serious public showing of this product category. And again, as I said before, it's a game changer. It is clearly a game changer for a lot of setups because, you know, from a pricing standpoint, once you add up all those different boxes and all those different video processors and things like that, you'll be shocked at the price points that the H-series can achieve. And not only can it achieve aggressive price points, but it can also make your life a lot easier in the setups and give you more capabilities. We're going to open it up to a question and answer segment right now. I've given you a general overview of the H-series. I'm going to welcome back Nelson and Ricky from China, from Xi'an, China. And if anyone has a question, please feel free to submit a question for you. Again, this was an overview of what the H-series is. There are lots of different types of input cards. There are lots of different types of output cards. There are lots of different types of configurations. And we at ATS Pro are extremely proficient at programming and setting these up and also teaching you how to do the same. So we have a question that came in a little earlier from Joseph from Ohio. And his question was, what makes the H-series stand out from other LED processors? Well, it's very clearly the video processing aspect of it and the modularity of it. Again, this is not just an LED processor. This is an LED processor combined with a video processor that has virtually no limits that you'll ever come across probably as far as number of inputs and outputs go, depending on what card cage size you choose. So again, typical LED processor has one input, maybe they have two. The minimal 2K card input on this has 4. And we have 4K input cards. So for instance, a lot of times you'll have an LED wall that might not be full 4K. It might be, 3K, or it might be 3,000 pixels wide. You would have to step fully up to a 4K processor for that. This system can handle that without any problem. You want to add another LED wall on it, chances are you're going to have enough outputs to be able to do that. And let's say you want new cameras, you bought a brand new camera in your house of worship and now you got 12G. That's fine, plug in a 12G SDI card and now you're feeding into the stream. We have a question from What You Want Productions. Will the Novastar input cards be able to handle an 8K 60 frame per second input? That's a question that I'll give to Ricky.
Okay. So currently we don't have any input card support 8K at 60 Hertz. So that will require HDMI 2.1 format. But that's something we don't have currently. But technically speaking, because all the input cards, it just the H series is just a modular design. So technically speaking, it is definitely possible to design a new input card that supports 8K with HDMI 2.1 standards. But that need to check with R&D team, say if they have that plan for designing that kind of input card. But for this question, we don't have that card right now.
Right. And let me expand upon that a little bit. If you look at the processing cards on the input card size and on the output card, all the processing and power is in these cards. The card cages themselves have a little bit, but most of it is in these cards. So what Ricky is saying is that future developments on this type of basis system are certainly possible by developing other input cards. All right, Drew Giuliano, what does the play pause button do in the top right of each layer window? Ricky, let me give that to you as well.
Okay. Each layer window. If I remember correctly, we don't have play and pause.
Yeah, that might have been just a picture from the source in the system that he was talking about. Please, Drew, get back to us a little bit, and we'll get a little bit more detail from you about what that is that you're looking at, and I'm sure that one of our engineers can be able to handle it. From Division TIVI, will multiple inputs be able to be combined in one sync canvas? The answer is yes. Yes, it will. Matthew DeJong, can the H-series layers and preset controls be triggered from QSC IP control? Actually, yes. In fact, we're about to do that with the Hard Rock Casino projects. So, in fact, I should have touched upon that a little bit earlier. There's a complete API set for these that they can be externally controlled. So whether it be Crestron or any of the other types of control systems out there, or the QSys system, they can be programmed for control from them. Wilfred Lamb from Toronto, Canada. Can you expand on the support of HDR? Ricky?
Yeah, okay. So we say we support HDR, which means that with the HDMI 2.0 and DP 1.2, that 4K input cards, if you connect your HDR source through the HDMI 2.0 to that input card, and as long as your source is HDR and your device support HDR output, then we can recognize the HDR format and display that HDR content to your LED wall. That's what we say is supporting HDR.
Supporting HDR, the pass-through of it, correct.
Yeah.
Okay, from Ted Watson. What's the total system latency from input to image on the screen?
The total input, latency input, it's about 2 to 3 frames from the source to the screen.
Okay, great. Matthew Jiang, could HD-based T input cards be created, ideally at least 4K 60 frames per second? So Ricky, he's looking for HD-based T input cards as opposed to the outputs.
Yeah, it's same as the 8K requirements. So technically speaking, it's definitely we're able to build the HD-based input card, but that depends on how the market required. If we do have heard a lot of customers require that kind of input cards, and we will be able to push R&D team to make that the HD-based input cards.
Yeah. So the HD-based T cards certainly, at 4K range, are certainly a doable thing.
Okay.
Okay, we have a question from China. is it possible to combine 16 outputs and 20 outputs in one H box on the same time? I think what he's talking about is that the output card, where did I put it? Oh, here we go. This output card has two different versions. It has the 16 outputs, which you're seeing here, and the fiber optic outputs right here. There's another version of this card that has 20 outputs that does not provide the fiber optic output. So obviously the 20 outputs could go way beyond 4K. So Ricky, can I have a 16 output card and a 20 output card in one H series box at the same time?
Yes, but under currently firmware version, we do recommend to use the same type of the LED output cards because there's a limitation currently. If you, for example, if the for H5 we support 3 output cards, and if you insert a 16 output cards at first slot, and you insert the 20 port output card to the second slot, the system will recognize the second one as the 16 output output. So that's the limitation of current firmware. But for the future firmware update, we'll be able to support different kinds of output cards.
Okay. From P.S. Kumar, and I hope I pronounced your name correctly, so forgive me if I have not. Is there any changes in the Nova LCT software also with respect to the H series?
Changing them. No, it's the same thing as what we do for all of our previous controller for the configuration in Nova LCT software. It's the same as when we configure H series.
Yeah, it's the same interface type of thing. Okay. Kyle from New York City. How long have ATS Pro and NovaStar been working together? Well, in reality, many, many, many years. We've been using NovaStar products for a long period of time, and we've had a lot of interactions with the factory over several years. Well, after we started ATS Pro, we started talking with NovaStar about a few things, and in particular, ATS Pro's staff has a lot of experience with integrated video processing head-end systems for LEDs, having handled many designs and systems for a large portion of walls in Times Square for Clear Channel Outdoor, other projects in outdoor that we designed with different software and different hardware configurations. And over the years, they've changed. You know, we were the ones that we actually introduced SDI routing into LED walls in Times Square many, many, many years ago, which was kind of a change at that time. So to answer your question more specifically, we really started working closely with Novastore last year as they were getting ready to come to market with the H series. And Nelson, we haven't directed many questions to him, and I have spent countless times on the phone and on text and at night working out the details of what our distribution would be different from other people. And primarily what that means is that we have a very large technical staff, and at ATS Pro, we don't just sell you a box, we sell you a solution. We make sure that it works for what it is that you're doing. Whether it's an LED wall from us or for someone else, we have been contracted from many LED companies that go in and fix head-end systems. You see, LED companies only go down a certain level when it comes to LED processing, and they leave an awful lot up to the discretion of the systems integrator or even the client in some cases. We don't do that. We ask a lot of different questions. We want to know what inputs and outputs are required, what the LED wall they're using, the pixel pitch, this and that, how they envision using and operating the system so that we can specify the correct solution as opposed to a product. And that's a big differentiator between ATS Pro and many other people. Now, so far, I believe our relationship with Novastore has been stellar, absolutely stellar. They're extremely responsive to lots of different questions that we ask. They have done a phenomenal job in the engineering and design of this system, both where it is right now and where it's going. So we couldn't be happier. This is definitely a product that we would put our stamp of approval on in any integration. And it doesn't matter what brand or other things that you're looking at. This is best of class. All right. So I think that'll wrap up our Q&A section. Again, I want to thank Ricky and Nelson for joining us here today. And I want to thank everyone that tuned in to join us here today. Again, this was just a general overview of the H series, but this Streaming studio, as you can see, was built for more than just this. The streaming studio was built to show all of the ATS Pro products and all of the Novastore products. And then also in the future, we'll be doing tech support and tech training classes through this studio as well. We believe that having the ability to do this and do it in a way that visibly represents the great quality of the products and also the LED products that we sell was a critical concern and a focus of ours. So we built this studio. We intend to use it quite a bit, and we hope that you join us on our next visit. And who knows, maybe it'll be another Novastore product. Maybe it'll be something else new that they come out with, or something else that just needs to be relooked at that maybe people don't understand. There's an awful lot of product line in the Novastore product line that a lot of people have never seen. I'm convinced of it. They don't know about it. So we're going to use this studio to introduce people to it. Novastore is a fantastic company. You know, it's rare that you find a company that has such deep market saturation and penetration as Novastore has, that is still humble and very willing to listen. I mean, clearly, they own more than probably 3/4 of the LED processing business. That's not a company statement, that's my impression. But it's very seldom that I come across an LED wall that doesn't have a Novastore processing system in it, or a manufacturer that doesn't offer it as primary. So when you have a company that is the size and breadth of Novastore, and now you've combined that into a system solution, which has been a real problem for many systems integrators over the years. I've seen systems designed that have multiple 4K, MCTRL 4Ks, without any, by big LED companies, without any consideration of how they get one signal into all those 4K units, without any consideration. They just sell the LED wall, and they sell you all these different LED processors, and they have given no care or concern about how now you get one signal, for instance, into all of those LED processors. In fact, that's a whole other system that you would need to do in order to be able to accommodate that. That's where the H series comes in, and that's what it replaces. You don't need a whole other system now. You have your LED processing, you have your video processing, you have your layers, you have your scaling, you have your HDR pass-through capabilities, you have sync capabilities, you have APIs that can connect to any sort of remote control, whether it be QSYS or Crestron. No matter what it is on the market, you can control the system remotely from a touchpad, keyboard, your iPhone, software on your computer desk, whatever it is that you want. The API is built, it's very robust, and it works. And in fact, ATS Pro has been working with that in several installations around the United States already. So in conclusion, I want to thank Novastore once again for joining us, and I sincerely want to thank for everyone else that tuned in to watch this today. Stay tuned. There'll be a lot more coming from ATS Pro and from Novastore in the future. I want to thank you again for your time, and hopefully this will be the first of many. Thank you very much.